Next, we're going to move into 2 point guards. And I think point guard is the toughest position, in my personal opinion, to build around. You look at the history of basketball, I would say there's been 3 point guards that have ever led their team to championships as the guy, right? Steph, Magic, Isaiah. But at the same time, point guards may be the most fun to watch position in the NBA, right? You've got, and I don't consider Luka a point guard. I think of him more as a point forward, with the size that he has. But I mean, Dame's ton of fun to watch. Westbrook in his prime, ton of fun to watch. The 2 guys that I'm going to bring up, ton of fun to watch. Derrick Rose was a ton of fun to watch. But let's start off with Ja Morant, who definitely took a leap last season. Came out, led the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, that team was just tenacious, I feel like is the best way to describe them. They just came after you no matter what you did. They just kept on coming. Is Ja Morant, over the next 5 years, because obviously he's still developing, he's still super young, is he a guy that you would want to build around as your number one? Because I think it's hands down, like, imagine if you paired him with a guy like a Kevin Durant or something like that. I mean, as a number two, it would be a super team if he was a number two. But if he's the number one, would you be able to win a championship with him as your number one?
Man, Ja Morant is pretty much one. No, I don't think one of. I think Ja Morant is the best finisher in the NBA today. I mean, especially at the point guard position.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, there's only been 3 point guards you can really think of where teams were built around, where they were actually championship teams: Steph Curry, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas. Now, you look at point guards like Steve Nash or Chris Paul, and they're again more traditional, but unfortunately have no championships, and that's kind of how most point guards are. But I don't consider Ja Morant as the prototypical normal point guard.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely developed his passing from last season to this season. That's one of the things I noticed about him. He was definitely a better passer and a ball handler. And obviously he can drive. He can take it to the rim anytime he wants. But his problem right now is obviously the outside shots. And it feels like in today's league, it's almost as if that's one of the more necessary parts. It's not like he was a horrible, 3-point shooter or anything. If he has a good look, he'll take it. And I don't know what his percentage was at the top of my head, but
it was 34.
Yeah, which is like a little below average, especially in today. But like I just remember watching him against the Warriors, and he took that team, to the very end of just a lot of those games. He did as much as he could. But I just remember watching Draymond guard him specifically, and it's like he left the most room out there on the outside. And if I'm being honest, I think the only reason Grizzlies, continue to stay within the Warriors was because Ja Morant would occasionally hit those threes, but it felt like they were giving him a lot of threes. And it's because they knew that wasn't his game. He's a driver. And so if you're a driver, I mean, it's a little more predictable. It's not like he has a mid-range shot like Devin Booker, for example. So would I build around him? No. Just because even though he's not the prototypical point guard, as I mentioned earlier, like Steve Nash or Chris Paul, to me, I need to see more, again, shot creation. You can be the best driver in the world, but as the Warriors and Draymond Green showed, it can be something that you can game plan around, and yeah, I mean, the Grizzlies are a completely different team with and without Ja Morant, which is, I think, why the Grizzlies blew the Warriors out by 50 points when Ja was out.
Yeah.
It's like almost two complete systems. So in summary, no, I don't think I'd build around him. Not until I can see that this is a guy who can be an ultimate scorer in all three areas.
Yeah, for me, I really like. I gotta say, I'm not a huge Memphis Grizzlies fan. Too many battles for OKC back in the playoffs with KD and stuff. But I do really like watching Ja Morant play. I loved watching him at Murray State. I loved watching him his rookie year. Um, Something about him, the injury concern with him is he doesn't play every game. He played 67 his rookie year, 63 last year, or I guess 2 years ago, and then 57 this past season. And I'm more worried about his health than a guy like Zion's. Even though Zion has missed more time, Zion has size to his advantage. He's not going to get bruised playing against people. And John Morant is a skinny framed player. Now, that allows him to, get really skinny, slide through holes, hit difficult shots. But with him, I feel like so much of his ability is based on his athleticism. The way he finishes around the rim. It's because he, one, either has too much hang time for the defender, or two, he's able to just get a little bit higher than that defender and, finish a little bit over him. And the difference between him and Zion is about 4 inches. And I don't know, probably 100 pounds now.
Yeah.
In reality, more like 80, 70 pounds. I'm worried about the longevity of him. I think it'll take 4 or 5 years if he's able to develop his game to become that. But for me, I feel like as a guard, if you're going to be the number one, I feel like you cannot rely on athleticism like that unless you are on another level than human beings. And when I say that, I mean Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's like the only guy where I'd be like, okay, you're all right, because Giannis is so much longer and lankier, and yet still at the same time just as strong, if not as strong as anybody he goes against, and so that allows him to get these angles. John Morant's never going to have that ability because he's 6'3", 190 pounds. I feel like if he wants to be that guy, I think he needs to step up in the Steph Curry element of offense, the Kyrie Irving style of offense. Now, he can still be the athletic guard that dunks on people, but he's got to be able to pull out and not have to score based on athleticism. Because I feel like when I watch him right now, it's all based on that speed, and it's all based on that, that vertical and that burst. And that's a great starting point. I think he needs to keep developing it. But for me, like I said before, the way the point guard position is played, the way the point guard position has traditionally been played, you have to be so good. Like top 5 point guard of all time good to even have a chance. At winning that championship as a number one. And then the other guys that are top 5 all time at the point guard, they don't have championships. Like it's Magic and Steph are 1 and 2, and then a lot of people put IT 3. I put IT in the top 5, but sometimes I throw Steve Nash in there. Jason Kidd, Oscar Robertson. Those are all guys that get thrown around, but none of them were a 1 on a championship team. They always had that other guy. Oscar could pass it in. I believe he won a championship with Kareem. Being able to pass it into Kareem is a major benefit because he's the 2. John Morant would be an absolute... He would maybe be the best number 2 possible for any, superstar. Not getting another cornerstone build-around piece. Like getting a Kevin Durant, or looking towards the future, getting a Luka with a John Morant, or getting a, Devin Booker with a John Morant, that would be unbelievable, because as a number 2, I feel like he'd be perfect. I don't see him as a number 1, which isn't I feel like so many people, they take that as like me trying to be mean to a player, but I feel like it's me, like it's still praising them. To be like, this guy is a number 2 option would be unbelievable. That's not me trying to disrespect them. That's me trying to be real, because there's only ever about 5 guys in the NBA that can win a championship as the number 1.
Yeah. And the problem with, NBA fans and media, or sorry, no, just NBA fans, when it comes to the media, if you're not praising someone, you're disrespecting them. Even if you don't mention someone, you're disrespecting them. It's so weird how, the fans, we, value and compare these players against one another. It's just very different from before.
Yeah.
It's like either they're the best or they're the worst when it comes to your opinions. You could, as you said, you could still praise someone and talk about how great of a player with your own opinions of your own criticism for that player. So, yeah, no, it's definitely not any disrespect towards Ja. I just, again, you mentioned it. His athleticism is very dependent on how he builds his game around, and I think he's better than what Derrick Rose was in his prime. But you know, again, he just I don't know if he needs to be exactly Steph Curry, but if he could at the very least just create his own shot, even in the mid range, as long as
Yeah.
he can create his shot somehow, then yeah, he could definitely take the to whatever team, the Grizzlies to a championship. But right now, as just a athletic finisher, I don't think that's going to take you anywhere, especially as a point guard, 6'3", 190.